producing that sound was what kind of made me think, well, hold on a second, if he's not in control of that movement, that is exactly the sort of thing I'm looking for. That's how that sound kind of started to come about.
Hello and welcome to Move to Live with me, Akram Khan, brought to you by Marquee TV, the streaming platform that takes fabulous performances from across the arts right onto your screen. I've been drawn to movement for as long as I can remember, and it's become my life's work as a dancer, choreographer, and director. So in this series, I'm chatting to a bunch of brilliant people to find out about their own relationship with movement. In this podcast, I'm talking to an actor and director who has almost made movement into a whole new art form in itself. Andy Serkis is a champion of what's known as performance capture. We'll dive right into that. And he's celebrated for many stunning performances, including Gollum in The Lord of the Rings, to Caesar in Planet of the Apes, and Supreme Leader Snoke in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Quite simply, Andy's relationship with his body, his physicality, has redefined what's possible on screen. There's so much to talk about. Hi, Andy.
Hey.
It's amazing to have you here. Thank you so much for even giving an ounce of your time. I know you're so busy.
No, you're kidding. Thank you. It's an absolute thrill and a pleasure and an honour to come and talk to you.
It's funny, we've been talking for so often about maybe doing something on stage together.
I know. And I still hope that's the case.
Oh God, let's see. My body's breaking now. You're an actor, you're a director, you've done other things that I'm going to talk about. But also you're really into the physical part of acting, but also sheer possibility to push your body through cycling, climbing mountains. How did you climb mountains to get here? Did you cycle here, or did you just take an Uber?
I actually got an Uber. Yeah. I took the easy route today.
But why the desire to?
It's an interesting one. I mean, I think I've always felt charged and alive and kind of creative, I suppose, when I'm doing something physical. I remember as a kid, actually, the first time sort of just dancing to music and actually releasing to music. I can't remember what the track was, but I remember I pretty much remember one of my sisters watching me and going, "Oh God, you can actually really move," and it was just a way. I suppose I feel connected to music or an environment like being in the mountains. That something that kind of it just sends a charge. Mountains have been a lifelong passion for me. In climbing and school, I found a member of a mountaineering club, and then and that is my. The place I think on this earth where I feel the most kind of spiritual. I'm not a religious person, but I find great spirituality in places that make you feel incredibly small and that are filled with wonder. So so I've always that kind of and the touch of stone and the kind of the connection to nature through movement, I suppose.
And well. Is there an element of danger?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like a thrill seeker in the sense that bungee jumping isn't anything I particularly want to do. Throwing yourself out of a plane, maybe not for me. And actually, the only other place that I've not enjoyed a physicality is caving. I went caving once and I found the claustrophobia of that really, really too intense. So I think it is definitely connected with nature. Space. But mountains do hold a real fascination for me in terms of mentally connecting in a very profound way.
And so, as you said that you started a club, mountaineering club. So obviously movement has been a very big part of your life, even from as a child, but you've also physically moved places. Your father is Iraqi, your mother is mixed Iraqi English.
Yeah, that's right.
And your father's a gynecologist, but he's also created this amazing hospital in Baghdad, and your mother is a teacher.
That's
what
right.
You said. Yeah.
That's right.
So were you always in London or were you traveling constantly?
Well, we did. I have three older sisters, and they were all brought up in Baghdad. And then when I was born, my mother had decided that she wanted to come back to England and teach here.
And there's five of you.
And then I had a younger brother after that. So it was around in 1964 when I was born. That was literally the period of time where my father had just, with three other doctors, built this hospital in the centre of Baghdad. And it was a time of political change as well. There was the rise of the Ba'athist Party and that regime, and so things were becoming a little bit more difficult. But so my mother culturally just felt that she wanted to be back in the UK and raise the family back here. Although, as I say, my three older sisters they'd all had their childhood there.
And then when did acting come into play?
Not for a long time. I mean, I had no intentions of becoming an actor when I was growing up. I did a couple of school plays. I was in King Lear. I played Edgar in
Right.
King Lear, and I remember the feeling of becoming someone else, but it wasn't like an overwhelming thing. I desire that I had to do it. In fact, what I really wanted to do when I was a kid growing up was I loved painting. I got a set of oil paints, I think, for like my 9th birthday or something. I asked for them, and I just loved painting with oils, and that developed, and I always painted throughout my childhood, and then decided I wanted to do a visual arts course. And it was only when I'd left school and gone to Lancaster University to do a visual arts course, I sort of by accident became an actor in a way, because in the first year you had to do a subsidiary course, and I had no idea you had to do that. I just wanted to concentrate on my visual arts and sculpture and painting and graphics and so on. And I realised that I had to pick something, and there happened to be a very good theatre studies course. So I thought, well, I'll maybe get involved there and start by designing posters or designing or making props or getting involved in the set designs and paint set building and all that kind of stuff. And then it wasn't until the end of my first year at college that I played a role that where it was a very transformative experience. It was a real...
What was the role?
It was an incredible play called Gotcha by Barry Keefe. And I remember seeing Phil Davis play this role.
Right.
In this play called Gotcha. And I did that. And it was like, wow, it was this amazing, transformative experience. Like, I don't want to spend the rest of my life behind a drawing board or an easel. I want to be able to inhabit and walk in other people's shoes and lives and become other people,
But there's this thing of, going into the skin of someone as an actor. But there's another layer or another kind of process simultaneously that I felt is very specific to you. And that is not just going into a character of another human being, but going into characters of perhaps creatures or other species.
Yeah.
Like, of course, Lord of the Rings and Gollum, which, I'm sitting here still astounded that I'm talking to Andy Serkis. And Gollum was the highlight for me of Lord of the Rings. It was the character that I felt was the most interesting, because I was always fascinated by contradictions.
Uh-huh.
And this character defined those contradictions, embodied those contradictions. You didn't know whether to love it or to hate it, to feel sorry for it or to celebrate it. How did this character come about? And then I want to go into motion capture.
Sure. So, well, look, I think very early on when I started acting, I realised, and I was very fortunate because my life began in repertory theatre. So when I started when I was a young professional actor, I had the opportunity to work in one company over the course of 2 years, playing lots of different roles. And so you're rehearsing a play during the day and performing another one at night. So I very quickly sort of, for me, in terms of forming a character, physicality was a big key for me. I mean, actors work in so many different ways. For some it's finding a voice. For some it's with the right pair of shoes. It can be an external stimuli. It can be something. It can be I want to bring the character as close to me as possible, so I can emotionally connect with the character and draw it to me. So, but my process was very much finding a physicality connected to emotional centers, I suppose, in the body, and playing those differences throughout all of those. So I did 14 plays back to back, rehearsing during the day, performing at night, and just by dint of that, I was finding a physical vocabulary which was different for each character. Anyway, that's the backdrop to Lord of the Rings, and one of the things when I first read the book, I'd read The Hobbit as a kid. I hadn't never read Lord of the Rings until I started to audition for the part of Gollum. But it was like, okay, so Gollum is a character who, yes, he is reviled. He is, he has a weak personality, but he is also given that if you were to play him now, what are the touch points? Real touch points, because when you're playing a fantasy character, you don't want to even go there thinking that this isn't something that could be real, or you have to find the emotional connection truth to if he were in this room with us today. So really the nature of addiction was at the heart of Gollum, and the power that the ring has over him. I was likening to. I just thought, well, this is something I can relate to, or I can play.
But is that the character that was written, or you were allowed to kind of explore that?
It was a combination. The writers, Philippa Boyens and Fran Walsh, who were writing obviously with Peter Jackson. As the character evolved over the course of the three. Well, the principal photography for the originally was like a year and a half for the 3 films, but then there were lots and lots of series of pickups over the ensuing years, and we evolved that character gradually throughout those movies. I mean, the impetus comes from things like, and it's fairly well documented, but it's true. The movement of a cat, for instance, really, really informed Gollum's voice, because I was looking for something that was involuntary. The physical, the way his body is physically racked by the power of the ring and this nature addiction and it says in the book, he was called Gollum because of the way he sounds. So it was something to do with the guilt of killing his cousin that was trapped in his throat. And I was thinking of all these things. And then we had a cat at the time called Diz, who literally came into the kitchen when I was working on creating Gollum and started coughing fur balls up.
Okay.
And so the whole body rhythm and physicality of from the tip of the bottom of the back of his spine, rippling right through, and then producing that sound was what kind of made me think, well, hold on a sec, if he's not in control of that movement, that is exactly the sort of thing I'm looking for, and that's how that sound kind of started to come about.
And then the whole physicalization of how he looked at different characters. How did you...
Well, then it was kind of, Gollum was originally written, and the 2 parts of the personality, the Gollum part and the Smeagol part, the dominant, visceral kind of survivor, and then the younger, slightly more abused character, Smeagol, which was, was sort of like the younger brother, if you like, to Gollum, that had no voice or had no kind of power over the other part of his personality. That sort of evolved and changed over the course of the 2 movies, because in fact, in the last movie, in The Return of the King, you realise that actually the more manipulative of the 2 was the Smeagol character, and that Gollum, at least you kind of knew where you were with him, because he's more direct, and he is this survivor and will fight, or will, it's flight or fight, but he's clear. The one who's in control. But actually, the other one is much more manipulative and
Right.
gets inside the heads of the other characters, and Frodo particularly, and twists things and passively aggressively works on them. So the physicality, therefore, sort of went off in two different directions, and I was inspired by so many different things physically as well. It was, I mean, I don't know about you, but I use a lot of visual imagery to inspire movement, and Francis Bacon's paintings were very, very instrumental in how Gollum moved. For
Wow. But Francis Bacon's paintings were not in front of you. So
Not
you
right in
had
front
to put them into yourself, into your mind, imagination.
Yeah.
But then that leads me to motion capture or performance.
Performance capture is kind of what it became known as, and has become known as, because it's not just capturing movement; it's capturing the entire performance.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that you're responsible for that.
I mean, I always think of it in terms of being the driver of a Formula One car. That you got an incredible team of people who built a technology, and actually. You're lucky enough to be the one sitting in the driving seat, and I was passionate about it. I think that is what that is. I mean, the formation of the Imaginarium, my company, and the desire to proliferate it as an art form, I suppose, is probably closer to the truth, rather than evolving the technology. Weta, who were instrumental at the beginning of creating performance capture for Lord of the Rings, and who have gone on, of course, to work on all of the films that I've been involved in, all the Apes movies, and plus Avatar and so on. They've been at the forefront of it, and then we, the Imaginarium, have also then taken it and used it for not just for movies, but for lots of different bespoke activities for AR and VR, and also creating a methodology which works for lots of different next generation storytelling.
Talking about Imaginarium, I was there. I did something we hired your space.
That's right.
I'd love you to talk a bit about how it works.
Sure.
For someone who's not that technical. I mean, for me, I was amazed because they put all these, I was kind of like in a leotard.
Yeah.
And they put all these kind of sensors.
Yeah.
And there were cameras 360 or something.
That's right.
And then I was moving around a bit, and he said, oh, imagine you're in a prison and you want to be released and you're this kind of animal. And so I was just improvising. And then I said, can I just have a look at myself? So what are you looking at? Because everybody was smiling and going, oh, that's it. And I was like, what are you looking at? And I came over and I looked at the screen, and they gave me a six-pack. I've never had a six-pack before. It was my proudest moment.
Oh, that's great.
And I said, can you do anything? Can you change my face? They were like, yeah. What kind of face do you want? I was like, oh my God, this is a dream.
Yeah.
So the transformation worked in two ways. One of them was me physically transforming.
Yep.
The other one was the technology transforming me even further.
Yep.
But please tell me, you'll be the best person to explain how it works.
Well, what you're describing is very clear, and so the motion capture originally, it came out of the medical industry actually for tracking for tracking our post-injury, tracking recovery, and so they used to put these tiny little markers, which are in essence sort of GPS markers, if you like, and like if you've broken your leg, they'd put these little markers on your, and it would track recovery to make sure your gait was improving. And that's where it came from. Then it was used in the video game industry, particularly early on, for capturing martial artists and sports people.
Right.
And it literally that was when it was motion capture. That was literally capturing motion.
Yeah.
And as you say, it's a 360-degree set of cameras. Each of those cameras lasers in on those markers, and they then become a point in space, which then moves. That is then added to a kind of digital skeleton of you.
Yeah.
And then onto that skeleton is an avatar. And so that for me was what was so exciting about it, and why I have been a sort of a spokesperson for it for the last two and a half decades, I suppose, is because I saw in it was this ability for any actor to play anything. It's literally the 21st century actor's tool.
Yeah.
egalitarian. It doesn't matter what color your skin is, what size you are, what shape you are, what sex you are. You can become anything, you know. And for me, that possibility was just amazing. And it also, you know, when just having played Gollum, this 3.5 foot wizened, you know, creature. When Peter Jackson then asked me immediately afterwards to play King Kong, who's a 25-foot gorilla, you know, who is the last of his species, and you know, finding the character within a silverback gorilla, that was the sort of a really big moment for me, because it was just like, yes, you can embody anything, and you have to then find a way into it. And motion capture or performance capture. The reason it became performance capture is because then you were able to capture face and all the facial expressions using tiny little markers all over your face. The same principle, but you have then a head-mounted camera, which is doing the same job as all of the cameras.
I mean, when I saw Planet of the Apes, the old one, it's great, but in terms of performance of the apes, was not great. And then I saw Caesar, played by you, in the modern take of it. And I was so taken by the acting skills of the animal, the Caesar. So that I understand what you mean by performance, because face really wasn't in it in the past. It was like it felt like a mask.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. I mean, you know, John Chambers' makeup for the original films was groundbreaking of its time. Of course, but actually, you know, looking at behind the scenes kind of documentaries and Catherine, Kim Hunter, not Catherine Hunter, Kim Hunter. She talks about having to constantly move your face underneath those layers of rubber and latex to get some sort of expression. So you'll see them kind of, you know, sort of pinching their noses and you know, having to grimace to at least get some sort of expression. Whereas with performance capture, you don't have to do any of that. It really picks up the subtlest of facial movements. Yeah. And it's all about internalizing the emotion of the character. And I think that is the one of the great things about then playing a character which is non-human, playing a creature like Caesar. Yeah. Is that you can infuse those characters with human emotion and you know, in a much more internalized, subtle way. So in fact, many people think, motion capture is all about doing a lot of physicality, but in fact, it's much more about stillness and emotional truth.
And do you find that are you given the freedom to explore that character and develop that character outside the director, or is the director always there going, no, this is how I want to?
Oh no, it's very. I mean, it's, you know, Rupert Wyatt, who originated the trilogy, and then Matt Reeves, who directed the second two films, and you know, both of whom are very, very close friends of mine. You know, they're fantastically. You know, collaborative and really respond to what the actor is bringing to the table, and that was the same with all of the characters. Right. And also we were working with an amazing physical performer, a gymnast, used to be in Cirque du Soleil, called Terry Notary, who worked with a lot of the cast on their ape physicality. And we used to do these long, you know, whether they were playing a orangutan or a chimpanzee or what kind, you know, and again, it's not just about, I think people misunderstand the work that goes into it. In a sense, it's not just creating ape movement, it's who is this character? Yeah. It's all about character. Yeah. It comes from character. As you well know, you know, it's not just choreography to make you move in a particular way. Yeah. It's who is this particular thing? Who is this creature? You know.
I mean, the choreography is just a language.
Exactly.
What matters is what that character is.
Yeah.
And how they use that language.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what are they communicating with that language?
Exactly, and I think again there's been a lot of, because in the early days people were like, well, what is this thing and what is this process, and it's not really proper acting, and who is Andy Serkis? Oh, I think he was a contortionist, or he was or maybe he was a stuntman or a dancer.
Because there was a backlash, right?
There was a
kind of, not backlash, but there was a kind of, I remember there was some actors who were like, this is ridiculous.
We're going to be taken over by robots.
Exactly, yeah. How did you deal with that?
Well, it was just like, I suppose I was so, I became evangelical about
Right.
look, here's this thing that you would love doing.
Yeah.
If you ever get the opportunity. And lo and behold, over the course of the last 2 decades, more and more actors have used the technology and have loved it from the entire cast of Avatar, Sigourney Weaver and Kate Winslet recently, and great actors, Josh Brolin in the Marvel films, loads and loads of actors have sort of, and even more kind of live action associated, not fantasy films, but like in The Irishman, they used facial capture to make Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro,
of course,
younger
right. Yeah.
and older, and so it offers up that as well as a possibility. So there's multiple applications for it.
Can I go back pre-motion or performance capture to a director that I'm a big fan of that you worked with? I don't know him, but I love his work, Leigh.
Oh.
How was that experience?
I mean, I've had 2 different experiences of working with Mike. One on a
Career Girls,
and a film called Topsy Turvy, which was about Gilbert and Sullivan. And I mean, Mike is the most extraordinary creator and filmmaker, and a very unique and idiosyncratic style of working. And the level of work that goes into preparation of a character is you go deep on those.
But he goes deep with you, right?
So he.
It's not like he leaves you alone.
No. You're taken on a journey with him, really. First of all, of finding the touchstone character that you're gonna. It always ends up being a real person ultimately that you're basing a character on, and so there's a sort of an
which I'm always talking about. Yes.
Interviewing process where you where you kind of literally go in and talk on a one-to-one with Mike over the course of weeks or months, and eventually find the character that you're going to base yours on. And then you go about kind of doing a series of improvisations, really building the character from birth.
We're talking about film.
This is the preparation for film.
Yeah, but that's mad, because in film these days, when do you get time to prepare? So this is really old school, and it's like a theatre piece that you're describing.
Mike comes from a theatre background.
Okay.
And when you think about his old plays like Abigail's Party and all the plays he used to do.
Yeah.
So he loves actors, and he loves the art of transformation. Actually, Mike loves to allow an actor to become another human being and walk in that other person's shoes. He doesn't really work with actors. You never come out or see actors in his movies who are just playing a version of themselves.
Right. Right.
So which is great. And going back to my theatre background, that was exactly the what I loved about acting is the art of transformation.
And so in Career Girls, you played?
In Career Girls, I ended up playing this character who was a futures broker. The thing about being in a Mike Leigh film is you never know how long or what you're going to actually play in the final movie, because it's all about the improvisations and where the story.
No, but does he
leads you.
Does he have, in a scene, would he say, does he describe the scene where No. It's literally comes about through improvisation. What's called a master improvisation, where all these actors are working in isolation and then they suddenly come together. No way. That's amazing.
So Linda Steadman and Catherine Cartledge, may her soul rest in peace. When they arrive in that scene, this was the first time I'd met them as their characters ever. And
you haven't met them as them?
No. I mean, no, because we were all in isolation.
Yeah.
And this is after months and months of becoming that character.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier about the process of, he was a futures broker, a burnt out futures broker who lived in Canary Wharf in this very sterile kind of flat that he's trying to sell. And
so what did you do for preparation of this role?
I mean, I spent months working with a futures broking firm, and which was wild. It was absolutely wild. It was a crazy environment, and some real characters.
Like Wolf in the...
Yeah, it was very much like, it was the back end of the end of the sort of the yuppie era of making thousands of pounds of bonuses and, just like, everyone sticking credit cards to their foreheads, going into restaurants and things like that, trying to outdo each other. And I mean, it was all that. It was a crazy world and amazing, and one which I was quite reticent about going into. But then once I was playing that character and sort of was in with everyone, they made me feel very welcome. In fact, they said, "Forget the acting. Why don't you come work with us?"
They offered you a job.
Yeah. I considered it briefly, but but no, it was an incredible experience. Actually,
Yeah.
It really was. And the second time I worked with Mike was on something completely different, which was Topsy Turvy about Gilbert and Sullivan. And this was a historical piece, which Mike had never really done a historical piece where you're basing them on real people.
Right.
So the level of research, we spent about 7 months rehearsing, and so you're.
So in those 7 months, does he just book you out? You can't do anything else?
No, you just work solely on that.
For 7 months?
Yeah.
God, that's an ideal way to work. That's what I would love to do.
Oh, yeah. No, it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
That's the way I want everyone to work, where you just immerse yourself in one thing.
Yeah, it was incredible. And you learn, everything about the period, the history, the backdrop to,
But once again, were you isolated from the other actors?
For long periods of time while you did your own research.
Yeah.
I was playing a character called Jean Daubin, who was the doily cart, the company, that Gilbert Sullivan's company. He was their choreographer for all of their very famous operas, Mikado and all the Pirates, Penzance and so on. So I learned the choreography for all of the operas. Researched all of that, and he was an extraordinary character as well. He was a music hall artist. He was a dancer himself. He did this thing called Legmania, where there's this really weird Victorian music hall style of dancing.
Right.
Anyway,
so you had to learn all of that.
Yeah. So I learned all of that, and then you do these improvisations, and we did these long, extended improvisations in the Richmond Theatre, in character, in costume, full cast, sort of the whole of the company. There were like 45 actors, I guess, something like that.
Yeah.
Great cast. Jim Broadbent and Alan Cord Jr. playing Gilbert and Sullivan, and Tim Spall was playing one of the lead actors, and yeah, mate, it was an amazing experience. And you're just in character for hour after hour after hour.
Yeah.
And Mike will be just watching. And then he's putting together the story and putting together what eventually he wants to film.
Even at that stage, or even at an early stage when you were working with Michael in your first film, and films that came after working with him that you've worked on, but at that moment, were you thinking, oh, I'd like to be in the director's seat one day? Or...
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to painting and visual arts, I'd always wanted to tell stories visually, and I'd made short films when I was at college. I was making short films and so on, and then I gradually realised that I wanted to direct, and I loved acting, and I did a lot of theatre. I mean, I did a load of theatre for years and years and years,
right.
And then gradually started getting into acting in TV and film and so on. But it was after a lot of, but actually during that time I realised that I was into photography and cinematography, and so I really always knew I wanted to direct.
Yeah.
And
what was your first film?
So we formed the Imaginarium. And I was sort of gearing up to direct a small independent film, my first film, a small number of actors in a few locations. When I got a call from Peter Jackson to say, would you come and direct the second unit on The Hobbit, which was completely out of the blue. And so suddenly I found myself standing in front of a crew.
He asked you to come and direct?
Yeah. The second unit.
But you hadn't directed any films up to that point?
Not my own feature. And I was he'd seen some short films that I'd directed.
Right.
And he knew over the course of the years of working together, and by now we'd worked together on many, many projects. King Kong and the Lord of the Rings.
So he knew you had a director's mind anyway.
And he knew that I wanted to do that. And he gave me this incredible opportunity. And I literally found myself in front of 200 people shooting native 3D at 48 frames a second,
Huge scale.
Massive, couldn't be bigger. And
definitely not an independent film.
Definitely not a three-hander, no. So it was and we shot for 200 days on The Hobbit.
Amazing. That's like pushing you straight into the deep end.
Huge. And it was and Pete said, this and I owe such a lot to him, because he not only as a collaborator on the whole development of the technological side and the evolution of the character of Gollum, and then King Kong and all the other films that we'd worked on, Tintin and so on.
Would you consider him a mentor?
Oh, hugely so. Yeah, hugely so. I mean, he is responsible for such a lot of the success I've had. I can't deny it. And my whole experience of working with the team down in New Zealand. And
then, did you bring that experience back into working on smaller films?
Actually, before that, I had directed some video games.
Oh, wow.
So and that came out of, this is interesting, the connection, because that came out of, after King Kong, I was asked by a video game company called Ninja Theory to create, to direct the performance capture for a new game called Heavenly Sword for PlayStation 3 that was coming out. And that was amazing, because I was able to, it was basically like shooting a movie, and we rehearsed it like a play over the course of 6 weeks. So everybody got, found characters, and we evolved it. Then when it came to shoot it, was just like, well, there wasn't anywhere in the UK to really to shoot the motion capture for it, performance capture for it. So we had to go back to New Zealand. So that experience made me want to found the Imaginarium here. But during the course of that, I got to work with the great Nitin Sawhney. So,
of course. Because he composed for that.
Wrote the music for that.
Absolutely.
And I'd always adored his music.
Yeah,
and
he's amazing.
And that was the first project that Nitin and I got to work on, and then the second video game. So I was directing actors in video games before I ended up shooting The Hobbit, and then so I was used to directing performance, and then came back from that, and then my first actual feature film that I directed by myself was a film called Breathe.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
with Andrew Garfield and Claire Foy, which is this incredible story of a man who is in the 1950s, suffers from gets polio, and he's in Africa and is given a matter of days to live. Is put in hospital,
right?
And then chooses to live. He was called the world's first respiraut, which is someone who chooses to live outside of hospital on a breathing machine and take all the risks that were involved with that. And it was an incredible performance.
It's a true story.
But it's a true story based on my business partner who founded the Imaginarium with me, Jonathan Cavendish's parents. It's his father's story.
Wow.
And Bill Nicholson, who'd written Gladiator, was a very, very good friend of Jonathan's, and he wrote a most amazing script. And then I got to
privilege to direct that.
And it was an amazing. That was the small film that I should have made had I not gone off to shoot the biggest films on the planet at the time.
There's something about scale that I find fascinating.
Yeah.
No, I mean, for me, obviously much smaller way, but the idea of doing theatre performances all over the world is one thing, and then when I did the Olympic opening ceremony.
Oh.
Then
incredible.
It's a different scale, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly when you come back to doing smaller theatres, they're still intimidating, for sure, but there's something that you've experienced, like climbing the Mount Everest or something.
Yeah.
Then every other mountain feels like home.
Yes, exactly. That's true. I'm
sure that huge film scale of a film may have changed the way you approached the smaller film that you made, eventually Breathe.
Absolutely.
Because then you went on to make, which my son and I watch constantly, Venom.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
How was that?
That was amazing. And actually, in between that, I did Mowgli, which
of course, yes,
with which again Nitin composed a music for, an amazing score. But that was an incredible experience because Mowgli was a perfect example of the intimacy of a small independent film, but in a big budget studio environment, using performance capture And we shot that in a very specific way, which was we had an incredible cast to play the animals.
Yeah.
You know, we had Kate Blanchett,
Benedict Cumberbatch
being Shere Khan, and just Tom Hollander playing Tabaki, who's a kind of hyena character, and so we had this incredible A-list kind of cast, and then so we did this thing where we brought everybody together, all this A-list cast, with the young actor, brilliantly talented young actor Rowan Chand to play Mowgli, and we assembled in a ballroom at the Grove Hotel near Leavesden Studios, and we shot all of the performance capture, just the facial capture for all of the scenes over the course of 2 weeks. We didn't capture the physicality of the actors, but the staging and the blocking, because a lot of the animals are quadrupeds and move in a particular way. So it was always going to be a hybrid of facial capture and animation, but driven by the blocking and everything was and the staging was done with these amazing actors.
Andy, I feel I can stretch my imagination, but to direct something like that, you have to. Because you won't know if it works until it's finally there. How does that work? Like,
well, you sort of. I think having been through the whole process and understanding again through the Planet of the Apes movies and working in live action using performance capture in live action, you understand that what is important actually is the face.
Right.
For certainly for quadruped animals, we were always, it was with all the best will in the world, you are never going to be able to have. A tiger performed just purely physically. But we did experiment with. I tell you what we did experiments with, and it did work to a certain extent. We brought the warhorse, the puppet from the National. We brought the warhorse into our Imaginarium stage, put markers all over it, and then had the puppeteers work that character.
Yes.
And then we thought, it actually looks better when they're just doing it live.
Yes.
The physics of the capture didn't quite work.
Right.
But it gave us an idea. What if you had to play quadruped animals, you've got literally the front and the back end, like old-fashioned pantomime horse, two actors in leotards with a flexible spine in between, like a pool noodle.
Yeah.
And that's what we used. And actually, we did several experiments with, and it worked, and it did work. But then it would have, some of the finer movements would have to have been animated on top of them. We thought ultimately what we'll do is we'll just capture the face, and also to have our A-list cast with us for a short period of time, it worked. Right. And then proper production, we then had a cast of really talented physical actors using the pool noodles to come on set and be the on stage at Leavesden Studios and on location in South Africa. We shot with these guys who were then an eye line for. And then we were shooting on Rowan, the young actor playing Mowgli, and shooting all his scenes. And you always when you shoot,
he was the only human, right?
He was the only human. Yeah. But the other actors were all there to be with him, so he could properly interact with them.
Yeah.
And
But they were in costume.
They were in a motion capture.
Motion capture. Sorry.
Motion capture suits. Yeah. So it was a very. Again, you arrive at a solution for what is going to work best for you for every given different film. When it came to Venom, I was quite interested in using performance capture, obviously, for Venom. But actually, Tom Hardy wanted Venom to be in his head. He didn't want to have to act with someone else. He wanted to be able to create wherever he placed his eye line. That's where he wanted Venom to be. So you evolve the solution according to the actor's needs and what is going to work. With the animators and so on and so forth. So I'm not completely. I'm not just I don't just work in one particular way.
Are there any drawbacks? I mean, there must be in everything that we do, but what would the drawbacks? What would you ideally like to improve in
performance capture? Well, I think it's moving into we'll be moving forward. You won't have to have a head-mounted camera with a boom on that you wear a helmet with a boom and then a small camera in front of you that tracks your movements.
Yeah.
But I think pretty soon we'll be able to do that in different ways. Just we have witness cameras that are all around, and also the markers should be able to be picked up just by
What
the
might be
camera.
interesting, Andy, is, I don't know, this might be really silly, but creating a show, performing it, and so you have 200 people or 500 people watching it, and at the same time, in the space, in another room, you have 500 people watching a screen.
That's interesting.
And then reversing the audience or changing the audience around.
Yeah.
To get two perspectives. One that is completely transformed live.
Yep.
Which can be done, obviously. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the background you can change. But the one on the stage is a live performance.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's perfectly possible. I mean, I think what you're talking about is exactly where we're heading at sort of the Imaginarium's at a point. Why that place was set up and why it was called the Imaginarium it wasn't just a sort of drive for hire studio system providing performance capture technology. The idea was to create a sort of a place. Yeah. Where all sorts of creatives could come and further the art of next generation storytelling. Yeah. And that's what we're at that place now, where actually what we started to think of 10, 15 years ago is now starting to become a reality because the delivery system of that of the ideas that we were having wasn't quite there, using AR and VR and all of those things, which are now beginning to be used. And over there, when you think about how, our mantra was always, what is next generation storytelling? How are we going to receive stories in 10, 20, 30 years' time? Yeah. And it's now becoming possible because the technology is catching up.
Can we copyright this idea? So you and I, because, when this goes on live, I don't want someone else to. So you and I, you direct the motion capture one, and I'll direct the dance performance that will happen in the live one.
And it'll be a combination of on screen and so. But hold on,
stage.
Just go on. Take the idea further again.
So basically, I'd create a theatrical dance show.
Yes.
The music is structured. Yep. Even the dialogue is recorded. Everything is recorded.
Yep.
And then the same thing is happening in a screen.
Yep.
In another space.
Yep.
Simultaneously, but we're all obviously. Cameraed up, if you like, or censored up. But you've created what's happening on screen.
Yep.
So
in terms of the camera moves and all and everything.
Yes. Because
actually that's a really good idea. Because actually the other thing is it is when you had your experience in the Imaginarium.
Yeah.
And you're standing there playing that character. The great thing is you could have done your performance. And then you can go and sit down, and then I can put all the camera moves on afterwards. Wow. So I can virtually move the camera around and go, okay, at this point I want a close-up of Akram, then I'm pulling back.
Without me being there?
Without you even being there.
Because you've captured it already?
Yeah, because it's bottled. The performance is bottled. There's so much possible.
Yeah.
And as I say, the technology's just catching up to the imagination now.
Yeah. Because the idea of it is exciting, but the technology needed to catch up for it to be convincing.
Correct.
And now you're saying it is.
Yeah. It's just becoming a possibility. So I think we're at a very interesting juncture. And I think over the next few years, we're going to start to see some, when you think of all of the, the theatre companies that are out there like Punch Drunk, they've started to experiment with VR. Yeah. And then you've got events like Secret Cinema where people are, dressing up as the characters and being an extended part of the universe of the film that they are going to see.
For me, it's also about how do I reach places and people who may not have a cinema?
Exactly.
So the possibility of, or a theatre, how do I bring my work out to them rather than them? Because, I've always struggled, well, not always, but most of my childhood, I struggled with my community going to the opera house.
Yeah.
They just felt too intimidated.
Yeah.
I'm doing Dish. It's about Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Yet, it was really difficult to bring them in, because it's not their culture, it's not their world. But if I can bring it to them, absolutely. I mean, when I did the documentary Move on Netflix, suddenly it was in every Bangladeshi's house.
Yes, exactly.
So this is what theatre can do with motion capture or capturing
Yep.
an experience,
Yeah.
you can bring it into their house. So the show is in their house.
Absolutely, 100%. And I mean, think about it. You know, what we've done is we've bottled the performance in data.
Yeah.
That data, say in 50 years' time, that performance is still going to be there.
That's amazing, yeah.
But you could redesign the characters. You could
okay.
you could actually redesign to fit the world that we're living in 50 years' time.
Okay, so here's a tough question, I think.
Okay.
Or maybe it's an easy question, easy answer for it. Digital rights.
Yes.
For the artists. How does that work if you've if you've captured them?
Yep.
How does it work in terms of rights?
That's a very, very good question. And it is obviously, you know, with the strikes and everything last year in Hollywood, it's a big contentious area and things do have to be correctly addressed. Yeah. And I suppose if you think about sampling in the 90s, it's a similar principle. I think you have to, I mean, and the whole notion of digital resurrection, you know, actors who passed, who you know, creating a film with, you know, Gary Cooper in or Humphrey Bogart or, you know.
How does that work? Yeah, I mean, like...
So I think as long as the estates are included and the descendants and it's out of respect and they're remunerated and the whole process of digital rights and owning your own digital rights. Because, yes, I mean, like with every technology.
Digital right?
Well, it's what is about to happen now is actors are going to be able to go and have their digital versions of themselves captured and put in a vault and basically licensed out because
amazing.
Yeah, because there is the possibility that you could be used. Yeah. And when I think about the amount of digital characters that I played and the library of stuff that just is sitting in files, in digital files, in computers, in hard drives all over the place, you know, that can be used up to this point as they wish. You know, it's owned by the makers, and that is changing, and that will change, and it has to be addressed because we're entering into a different realm now.
Yes.
You know, so I think your own digital rights, your likeness, your voice, all of those things now are being addressed to find a way of safely and fairly, you know, making sure that you control it somewhat.
Right. I asked you before the talk today about if your parents are alive. My father died not so long ago. And I have children and you have children. Movement is instrumental in my life, and in death. Because when my father passed away, I'm constantly seeing the movement of him now.
Interesting.
When he was in front of me, I didn't recognize him. I didn't address it because I'm too busy with life.
Yeah.
I know he's going to be there on the other side of the phone.
Yeah.
He just lives on the next street. It's fine. I'll see him tomorrow. I'll see him tomorrow. It never happens, right? And now I've collected all his voice messages that he left for me.
Wow.
And that I ignored because I was busy in life. I said, I'll get back to you, Dad. Don't worry. Why are you leaving every day a voice message? How does it feel like to be a father of 3?
Yeah.
Like me, 3. And how does it feel to see them evolve, move into grown adults? And have they taken acting? Have they followed your path?
They are all actors in their own right. They're both. Yes.
Did you push them, or they just went into it?
They just. I mean, they grew up with both their mother and father as you know, actors, and me as a director.
And Lauren, I have to say, is amazing. Your wife is incredible.
She is pretty phenomenal, I have to say.
Every time I meet her, there's something so grounded. Yeah. Deeply grounded, not even practiced humility. It was real sense of humility.
She's an incredibly truthful human being. Yeah. And it's interesting because both of us have just, and I'll get back to my children in a sec, but we've both just, having not done any theatre for years, we've both just been involved in plays. I did a play called Ulster American with Woody Harrelson and Louisa Harland at the Riverside not so long ago. Yeah. And Lorraine's literally just finished a play at the National called Till the Stars Fall Down. Oh, yeah. And so it's really interesting going back. I hadn't been on stage for 22 years. I was terrified, and she hadn't been on stage for 10 years. And we literally, as my show came to a close, her show was opening, and so we spent the last 6 months literally just sort of back in the live space, and the tension has been incredible. But it's such an amazing feeling being back on stage. It really is.
What is it about being on stage that's different to motion capture or performance or film?
Well, it is. It's a high wire act, isn't it? I mean, it's of all people, it's the most intoxicating, but it's so demanding on every level, mentally and physically and emotionally. People. It's interesting, people who are not in the business and their understanding of what it must be to do a show, but it's because you're living with the show, no matter whether you're on stage or not. It's inside you all the time, 24/7, isn't it? And it's so. And
you're not in control of it the moment it begins.
No, that's right.
The audience are.
Yeah, no, it's true.
It's so scary.
It's true, and the chemistry every night.
It's different.
It's so different.
Yeah, your children are storytellers now, or they're acting. Do you think they'll take up directing?
I think so. They're all interested in lots of different aspects of storytelling. So yeah. They're very talented in lots of different ways.
Do you give them notes? Do they ask for notes?
Yeah, well, the thing is, of course, modern day auditioning is all about self-tapes.
Yes.
We do help them with their self-tapes. We direct them and we work with them, but they're very strong-willed, all of them, and their own creative beings. And we certainly can't get them jobs. That's not how it works. They're either right or not for a role. So it's not a case of shooing them in or anything like that. We don't and can't do that. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. But they're all shaping up to be really and very different, actually, very different in the way that they're pursuing acting or making theatre or telling story, so it's very gratifying. I mean, it's wonderful to watch. And what about yours?
No, they haven't taken up dance. Maybe my youngest will, but yeah, they've taken. I think my son really likes trampoline right now.
Oh, wow.
He wants to compete, and my daughter likes Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Oh, wow, amazing. Yeah. Oh, so still very movement.
Movement orientated. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, movement's in our family. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, they see me get up today. Course. Got up at 5 o'clock because I knew I was coming here early. So I got up at 5, trained from 6 till 8:30. So they see me do that every day, right? So then they hang out with me in the studio, pretending to copy me and stuff, training, picking up stuff, stretching. It runs in the family. It's like your kids, It just. Sure. And I think it's the most beautiful gift you can ever share with them, with kids, to play.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Well, it was so beautiful playing with you today, talking about ideas. And you are such a generous human being. And what's brilliant is, though you've grown up in Ruislip, I feel like you're still as if you're just a normal person from Ruislip. That hasn't changed, even though you work on the biggest films ever. And it's not a practiced humility, as I said, that I discovered in Lauren. It was really genuine, and I feel that both of you are very, very special, and I'm so, so thankful that you gave your time to be here.
Akram, thank you. So, as I say, well, I'm back at you, I feel the same, and I really still hope that at some point we do get to, I mean, we had the opportunity to work a little on Creature.
Yes, that's right.
And we nearly worked together on a film version of Xenos as well, which was, those were so exciting, those sessions that we had, and I do really deeply hope we get to.
We will do something.
We will.
We must.
It's a deal.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Move to Live, and do keep an eye out for more episodes here on Marquee TV. And feel free to get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. The email address is movetolivepodcast@gmail.com, or you can get in touch on our socials. You'll find all the links in the show notes. So until the next time, goodbye, and please, always keep moving.